This is the Tax Platform informing the nation on tax matters. I'm your usual host, Dumelo Ranau, aka the Tax Guru, the Tax Slayer. This week, we answer the question, is BURS criminalizing taxpayers by issuing them with tax demand letters? And obviously the answer to this question is it's a very big no, unfortunately. And I think that let me start with just a basic understanding of how a debt is created with BURS. So once you submit your return, let's assume you submit a return and you don't make any payment, it will create revenue for them, because basically that's their business, collecting tax. And since you have not paid, it will go to their debtors, meaning you owe them. So after 30 days, for most of the taxes, they expect you to clear that liability before it can start charging interest. And over and above that tax, there will be interest or penalties depending on whether you've paid late or you've submitted your return late. And for VAT, even for other taxes, the interest and penalty becomes the tax and may be recorded as a principal liability as you go on with your filings. So, in short, this debt comes from your compliance summary. So whatever shows on your compliance summary or report or on your account is actually a debt to them, whether it is genuine or not. And therefore it is important for you as a taxpayer that you always review your compliance status regularly to ensure that things are in order. So a regular review of your tax affairs puts you in a better position to correct any mistakes that may be done by yourself as a taxpayer or by BURS. So if your compliance report shows an outstanding debt, they don't have a choice as the revenue authority but to follow up on that debt. And also what I've realized for those that have seen their demand letters or those who have talked about receiving demand letters is that most of these are received between January and March every year. And like any other government entity, BURS year end is 31st March. So between January and March, the Debt and Collections Department will be working on collecting those debts so that they can close off their books. Remember, BURS has to report to the Ministry of Finance to say this is how much we have collected and this is how much taxpayers owe. They also have to report that in their annual report. So it is important that they collect those debts and give the government the money. Remember, the taxes are used in developing the country, so that's why they will chase you and give you demand letters so that they can explore other avenues of payment. And for some, they always send text messages or emails to show you that you have an outstanding debt. Most of those emails or text are actually automated, so you need to always ensure that when you receive those, you review your that debt to see if it is genuine. And the unfortunate part, about this is that the burden of compliance is always on you as the taxpayer. You have the burden to show that you have always been compliant, and that can be shown by you having receipts, copies of returns, invoices, and any information that is necessary. So upon receiving the demand letter, for those who are receiving demand letters, you need to analyze the debt, and where you feel that it is not genuine, produce evidence to that effect to say, no, this debt is not genuine. If they are saying you owe June 2022 VAT, show them that no, in 2022, here's the receipt, I paid. And well, I've worked with different jurisdictions in Southern Africa, where there was a transition, the tax authority changing from one system to the other. And during those changes, non-genuine debts can be created when systems are migrated. Sometimes the system only migrates the debit part, and it doesn't migrate the credit part. So then that results in you showing as owing, while in fact you are not owing. So since the burden of proof is on your side as the taxpayer, you should always ensure that regularly you prepare reconciliations of what you know as your tax liability and what BURS shows as your tax liability. And if there is any difference, query that with BURS and produce evidence that, look guys, you are saying I owe this much, but this is how my tax affairs are. This is the proof that I've paid, and this is the proof that I've submitted these returns on time, and therefore I'm not owing you anything. And there are always issues of space, so it is important that some of the records you can save them electronically, so that you do not run out of space, whether these are contracts, receipts, invoices, and any other document, proof of filing the return. Ensure that you always file those so that you can prove your case at a later stage. And sometimes it can just be our mistakes as taxpayers and not necessarily the revenues mistakes that we have those debts. Maybe we submitted the return late, or we paid late, and after paying late we didn't pay the interest, or we didn't pay the penalty. So it always accumulates. When you pay for the next VAT return, that penalty will be paid first, and you will be owing a portion of the principal liability, and that principal liability also charges interest, and then it builds on. So you ought to always review regularly, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, to ensure that your tax affairs are in order and there are no penalties or interest owing. And yes, compliance does not always end with you filing the return and making payment. I think that is one of the mistakes that taxpayers often make, to think that compliance ends with them filing the return and then they make payment, and after that they don't review their compliance status to see if maybe that return was processed, or maybe that payment, a receipt was issued. If you are filing online, if you downloaded the receipt. So it involves a regular monitoring, reviewing, and reconciling of your tax accounts, so that you are always sure that indeed everything is in order. So if all of the above are not done, that is reconciliations, reviews, monitoring, it can only boil down to two things. You don't have a proper tax compliance person, or you are not paying them enough to do that work. Because most of the taxpayers will only pay their consultants for filing of the return, and then that's it. They will talk to them after a year, if it's income tax return for example, and then they don't do any follow-ups to see if was the process completed, because filing the return and making payment is just part of a process in terms of complying with the tax statutes. So I hope this episode has relieved you, for those who have been scared by the demand letters. I get to appreciate what the demand letter wants, what it has. Do you agree with what it says? If you agree, get into a payment arrangement with them and pay them. If you don't agree, engage it, analyze it, query it, come with evidence to show that this is not due. If there are errors, point them out that this is an error, so that the debt can be extinguished, the debt can be cancelled, and your compliance status can be in order. We are the tax platform informing the nation on tax matters. Continue to follow us on various platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Have a good day.